it was quite a sudden move. I mean, we do kind of expect something to happen, but nonetheless, it was something that, as an educator, we needed to prepare our materials and stuff. But I think in terms of getting our students ready and all this, it was quite sudden. But we understand the seriousness of the situation and, of course, the safety for our students. That's why we have to comply with that, and we have to get ready really quickly in terms of gathering resources and getting our students ready for that, for this circuit breaker. Alright, so prior to the start of circuit breaker, we have considered preparing resources and materials to provide for our students in the case home-based learning does happen and circuit breaker does happen. So materials such as lessons or activities that can be done at home to keep our students engaged, and at the same time trying to maintain that sort of the level of knowledge learned, so that it's not lost during this time period. So it was these things in mind that we prepared our resources and materials in hopes of getting our students readily engaged during this period. For students in our school, it's very important to get them engaged, so that they are not only fed with academic worksheets, because we do not want them to be bored during this period, this circuit breaker period. So we have in mind activities, leisure activities, or physical fitness activities along the way to help them to maintain the fitness abilities and skills they have learned, and also to maintain that interest in the particular subjects that we've been teaching them. So for math and languages and all that, in all that cases, the teachers here have tried their best to prepare various activities, to get them engaged and interested throughout this period. Okay, so in school here we have a few we have other staffs here that are involved with this school that helps our students to learn and progress. So we have a psychologist and a team of psychologists actually, and they actually provided us with some materials, or caregivers with materials on how to explain to students, how to let students know what is happening, so that they at least understand why is there a break in routine, right? And then slowly, there's also materials on allowing students to understand how to slowly transit back to school, because then again, this time period, this circuit breaker period is quite a long one, so they're actually used to being at home, and then come back to school is kind of hard feeling for most students. So establishing a routine is very important, and this is with help with our staff in school, as well as some materials that other special education schools are actually sharing around. Right, so I think that's a very good question, because I think for most students in our school, it actually benefits both students and teachers when we have face-to-face interaction in terms of teaching and learning, because we can get the best observation and assessment of the students' skills and abilities through this kind of interaction. However, as you mentioned, for PE, it's a very physical kind of activity, so it's quite difficult to get the kind of assessment that we want in real time. So it's and because of that, we have to tone down or reduce our expectations on what can be done and what our students are able to carry out at home. So yes, it is slightly difficult in this case. In school, what we do is I believe in most schools, what teachers or educators will always try to do is always try to push students to achieve a certain goal or a certain objective for the lesson, right? And it's always we're always trying to get our students to improve, to better themselves, so they can pick up better skills in this arena. So, what I mean by reduction or managing our expectations is actually considering the lack of a teacher or educator in the presence of a student. We do have to expect that our students might or might not show an improvement in their studies or their subject matter. So that is what we expect, and we will have to, hopefully, of course, the resources and materials provided can help them to improve. But from my perspective, or personally, all these things are done in the case whereby, in case students do not maintain or they can't progress, but at least they can maintain what they have learned. Most teachers, it's quite a sudden jump to quickly grasp the online platforms like Zoom, Google Meet, and all these other platforms that we're using. But one thing that we had to consider would be the availability of these platforms, accessibility actually, of these platforms to our students and as well as to parents at home, because we always have to consider how caregivers at home will be able to assist our students, because during circuit breaker, most caregivers at home most caregivers will be working at home. So we do not want to disrupt too much of the caregiver's time, but at the same time provide a substantial amount of activities and which are engaging and fulfilling for our students. So on top of all that, with the quite rushed learning of using all these platforms, we have opted, or some of us actually, some of the teachers have opted to use more concrete or more fixed stationary materials, such as like worksheets or certain, in the case non-live teaching materials for students and caregivers to get used to or get to use during this period. Okay, so this thing, what we did was, me and my other PE teacher, what we did was we have considered the what most of our students, what their ability levels can cover, and then we create exercises to cover with the idea of maintaining their physical fitness and also to practice certain skills. So, for example, we will have them to do like certain things like Tabata, or even like videos on YouTube that will be able to engage them based on their the current pop culture likes and dislikes, to get them engaged while getting them moving in terms. So that will be in terms of physical fitness. So skill wise will be a bit more difficult and tricky. So like for example, ball skills, that kind of thing is quite dangerous. So we have to consider all these options when we decide to provide the materials for them to carry out at home. Yeah, so as you mentioned, it is quite difficult to carry out PE at home in terms of something for us to observe and for students to carry out at the same time. So we don't use worksheets per se, but these are the kind of material resources we provide to our caregivers to look at and then to carry out with their child or their ward. Well, I think first and foremost, they have become more aware of the reality of a pandemic, right? So they know that there is this thing that's happening around the world, or at least in Singapore, and then that it stops their usual routine, which is coming to school. And there are so many different ways that we can interact with them, which is through the online platforms, which some of us teachers actually try to engage them during this period. This CB period. So I think it's something that our students have taken in stride. Also, like for the new normal, they have started to wear masks, wearing face shield, which is something that most of our students find it difficult at the start, but later on, most of them are actually complying very well with these standard procedures already. And there's a break in the routine. It affects them. However, I think the caregivers at home and the teachers I mean, my colleagues and all teachers around the world, I mean, around Singapore at least, providing them with the materials or all sorts of materials to engage in meaningfully in terms of course materials, and also providing them the opportunity to explore platforms like Zoom to interact with others. So I have colleagues who have talked about how their students were so happy to see each other on Zoom after a period of maybe 3-4 weeks, and it really helped to manage their emotions and how they can expect what to happen in the later time. So yeah, I would say yes, they are actually happy at the start, and some of them actually it just tapers off after that for the students. Yeah. Right. I think yeah, it's a very serious question for in this aspect. So what we have done will be, I think we have at least very much complied with what the standard procedures and recommendations have been offered from MOH, MOE, the safe distancing. And I would say I'm quite confident that what we are going to practice in the future, or right now, and implement strongly in the future will be the personal hygiene, getting our students to really wash their hands, the standard washing hands, wearing your mask, watch their interaction with their friends and anybody near to them. So all these kind of things, it might be very standard or quite common sense for most people, but we feel that this is something that needs to be ingrained in our students here. And students here, they have actually started to show signs of incorporating it into their daily life. So they do tell each other, hey, you got to wear your mask, why you're not wearing your mask, that kind of thing. So they are spot checking each other and making sure that everybody is safe. So I would say that this is some of the things that we at TGS are doing, and the students themselves are actually also taking out the effort to carry out on themselves on their own. Yeah. Right. Personal note, I guess let's not give up, and just keep doing what we're doing. And yeah, I think everybody is in this together. So as teachers and as students, we have to help each other, help one another in this case to last through this period, because we do not know how long this will last. But nonetheless, it's been proven that we are back in school and everything. We should be able to do it together. Yeah.